Right. Like God chose you to be his people. If you are so-called Puerto Rican, if you come from Cuba, if you're El Salvadorian, if you are Mexican, if you come from the Navajo, the Iroquois, the Creeks, the Muskegee, the Pequot, God chose you to be his people. Right. And the problem that we have, if you're from Trinidad, Jamaica, you understand, from Barbados, from Haiti, you understand, the Virgin Islands, you are God's chosen people. Right. And the problem that we have in the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American community is that we have an identity crisis. You understand? Shalom, Richmond, with an Israelite school, universal practical knowledge. Started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General Yohana. And we're not affiliated with any other Israelite group nor any other Christian organization. Baruch Hashem, give me Proverbs chapter 3, verse 31, man. Like, we have a situation in the Black, Hispanic, and Native American community. And allow me to start off. You see this sign right here? If you are so-called Black, Hispanic, or Native American, you are God's chosen people. Right. Like God chose you to be his people. If you are so-called Puerto Rican, if you come from Cuba, if you're El Salvadorian, if you are Mexican, if you come from the Navajo, the Iroquois, the Creeks, the Muskegee, the Pequot, God chose you to be his people. Right. And the problem that we have, if you're from Trinidad, Jamaica, you understand, from Barbados, from Haiti, you understand, the Virgin Islands, you are God's chosen people. Right. And the problem that we have in the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American community is that we have an identity crisis. You understand? Like, we have a problem identifying ourselves with the wrong people. Like, we don't realize the danger that we have when we identify ourselves with a certain race of people. That is absolutely dangerous. Give me Proverbs chapter 3, verse 31. You got it up? Go ahead.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 31. Envy thou not the oppressor.
The Lord said, envy not thy oppressor. Like, who is your oppressor, black man? Like, who is your oppressor, Latino man? Like, who is your oppressor, Native American man? Like, the Lord wants us to understand that we have an oppressor. Right. The Lord wants us to understand that we have an enemy, man. Right. The Lord does not want us to join ourselves to our oppressor. The Lord does not want us to identify ourselves to our oppressor. Right. Our oppressor is the white man, you understand? Right. Our oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of. Right. The Lord does not want us to identify with our oppressors, man. Right. He said what?
Envy thou not the oppressor.
The Lord never wanted us to be like our oppressor. The Lord never wanted us to be like America. You understand? America is nothing about murder. America is nothing about child molestation. That's what America is about. That's what our oppressor is about. That's why the Lord does not want us to identify ourselves as our oppressor. If you wonder why blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are killing each other and murdering each other and now chopping up their babies and chopping up their grandmas with chainsaws and shooting up schools like our oppressor is, because we are doing what?
Envy thou not the oppressor.
Because the Lord said to envy not our oppressor. If you envy your oppressor, you're going to do exactly what your oppressor does. Right. And the Lord is against it. The Lord does not want us to do such things. The Lord does not want us to identify with America. The Lord is against America. The Lord is going to send third world nuclear war, you understand, to America. The Lord does not want us to be a part of it. It said what?
Envy thou not the oppressor.
The Lord said, don't identify with our oppressor. Go ahead.
And choose none of his ways.
The Lord said, choose none of his ways. You want to know why blacks and Latinos are murdering each other? Our oppressor did it first. That was their custom. That was their culture. It's called the mafia culture. It's called being gangsters. It's called being thugs. Our oppressor was the first thugs. Our oppressor was the mafia. Our oppressor was the first gangsters. That's your Goodfellas. That's your Scarface. That's your Godfather. That's your Casino. You understand? Like, the Lord wants us to understand that's the gang. That's where gang culture comes from. That's where that thug culture comes from. It didn't start in the black community. It didn't start in the Native American community. It didn't start in the Latino community. You know what? You know where popping the trunk comes from? You know what it means to pop a trunk on a brother? That comes from the mafia. That comes from the Italians. That comes from the Sicilians that flooded America in the 30s and the 40s. That's where that comes from. It doesn't come from us. but we adopted their culture. We adopted their customs. We adopted their traditions. No thanks to Christianity. No thanks to black religious leaders. No thanks to the pastors. No thanks to Martin Luther King, joining blacks and Latinos to America, and integration is the only way we joined ourselves and kept their customs. And joined ourselves to their traditions and followed their customs and their traditions and their ways. The Lord said what?
Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways.
We were supposed to choose none of his ways. You want to know why pedophilia is a problem in the black community? You want to know why child molestation is a serious problem in the Latino community and in those reservations? Because our oppressors were the first child molesters. They were the pedophiles. We adopted their culture. That was their custom. It was a Roman practice and a Greek practice to have sex with children. That comes from America. That's the customs and the traditions of our oppressor. You understand? And if you are so-called black, Hispanic, or Native American, man, you are not to be a child molester. You are not to be a pedophile. You are not allowed to take the customs and the traditions of your oppressor. The Lord is against us being those molesters and being those pedophiles. Don't be like America. America is filled with child molestation. It says what?
Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways.
Choose none of your ways of the English, of the British, of the Germans, of the Polish. Like the Lord does not want us to be like our oppressor. Do not take the traditions of Joe Biden, your Donald Trumps, your Ronald Reagans, your JFKs, your George Bushes, your Bill Clintons. The Lord does not want us to be like our oppressor. The Lord wants us to separate from America. The Lord wants us to be separate from our oppressor. The Bible says what?
Envy thou not the oppressor.
The Lord does not want you to be like America. Don't be a good American. You understand? I understand. Martin Luther King taught us to be good American citizens, man. Like MLK, your Jesse Jacksons, you understand? Your Al Sharptons. They led blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to be good, upstanding American citizens. Taught us to vote. Taught us to join ourselves to America. But the Lord is against it. The Lord does not want you to be a part of America, because there's dangers when being a part of America. We didn't realize joining America was going to fill the black, Hispanic, and Native American community with a bunch of drugs and a bunch of coke and a bunch of crack and a bunch of Mollies and Percocets. You understand? Does anybody remember the show Snowfall? You understand? How many of y'all blacks and Latinos remember that show Snowfall? It just came to an end not too long ago. Well, guess what? America just told us in front of our faces, through HBO, through Cinemax, that they pushed crack and coke into our neighborhoods. Blacks, Hispanics, we didn't have that type of ability. We didn't have no passport. We didn't go overseas to get the crack. We didn't go overseas to get the coke. That was our oppressor. That was the FBI, the CIA, the police department, full of white men that pushed drugs into our community.